Good evening, everyone. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you all spending your Thursday night with us here. It's really nice of you to do that. I've been in Dubai for about 6 to 7 months, so I thought it would be nice, like as it's getting hot, to start with some ice cream, kind of cool things down a little bit, get everyone feeling good. The purpose of the Pioneer Series is to be a knowledge hub for those creating the future. And so today I'm here to talk to you all about why design is incredibly critical for the future of food. As someone who spent the last 5 years working at the edges of food with companies, entrepreneurs, governments, and more, I've been really fortunate to partner with clients and other people who think about the changes necessary for all of us to have a better food future. I'm not going to be talking about lab-grown meat tonight. I'm not going to be talking about CRISPR. Those are really important things, but that's not what the purpose of this is tonight. Instead, I'm going to be talking about the major shifts I think that we need to make and how design can play a role in those in order to have a better future for everyone. I want to start first with IDEO. I'm going to come back to Palmwood in a little bit. Palmwood is the most exciting chapter of IDEO, in my opinion. Says all of the Palmwood people to your left. Anytime you hear that, I'm just throwing bits and bytes over there to get them excited. So IDEO is a global design firm. We have offices in 9 locations with labs and experiments in about 5 more, including here in Dubai with Palmwood. We were put on the map back in 1980. We were made famous because our founders worked with Apple and Steve Jobs to create the first ever working mouse. That's what we're known for. We're known for product design. That's our heritage. That's where we came from. We have the patent on the laptop hinge. We helped create the Palm, which is kind of the precursor to the smartphone. But over the years, we've shifted from just designing products to designing spaces, services, systems, brands, and organizations, and we've done it across every industry. And the way we've been able to do that is by using a methodology called human-centered design or design thinking. And through our roots, we've basically taken that same process that we used at the beginning with product design, and we've applied it to all these other things. And so what we pride ourselves on doing these days is tackling some of the world's most complex and systemic challenges, whether it's healthcare, to governments, to education, to our food system. We continue to design products, of course, but we now also design the services that bring them to market, the organizations that produce them, and the societal movements that influence our world. But the thing about our process is that we always start with people. We believe that if you can create something amazing if you start with people first, you don't forget about technology and feasibility, because the best innovation in the world happens at the intersection of all three, but we always start with people. And so since design is new to maybe 2/3 of you, not the Palmwood 1/3, I thought I'd take a minute and just talk a little bit about how we work, and then I'll take you through some case studies and then a big project we did here in the UAE earlier this year. So practicing human-centered design is a much different kind of design than other design work. It's a collaborative, iterative, and unexpected process. And as I mentioned a minute ago, we always start with people, and we try to live through and see the world through their eyes. This is a woman that I met about 2 years ago. We were working on a project where we were trying to think about how to help busy mothers and parents and fathers support their kids and give them better solutions for meals they can make at home. So we were lucky. I was lucky enough to meet bless you. I was lucky enough to meet Margarita, who's the woman you saw, and this is her life in these photos. And she invited me into her home. I spent about 4 hours with her. We went to her house. I met her after work. Then we went and picked up her son at daycare. Then she took her daughter to karate class. Then we went back to her house to start prepping dinner. Then we went to the grocery store. Then we picked up her daughter. Then we came home, and then we had dinner. And so you can imagine if you start to see the world through the eyes of people who are actually living those kinds of challenges, the kinds of amazing things that you might see. Another thing that we try to do is find inspiration in unexpected places. So one of the famous IDEO stories is we were working with a hospital, and we were trying to figure out how can we get inspired about the challenges that they face. And they face really, really detailed, down to the kind of check-boxing type challenge. Our team went and spent some time with the F1 pit crew. If you think about an F1 pit crew, they get a car in and out in under a minute, 30 seconds. And they do things super quick and super fast. So if you're in a situation where time is of the essence and you have a lot of really critical things to do, how might you learn about what you can bring in? Well, let's go talk to an F1 pit crew and bring a bunch of things back that might inspire us and what we might do differently. We fundamentally believe in prototyping. So we talk a lot about building to think or creating ideas that we can share in front of people. And so we build to think, we make things real. We show them to consumers early in our process. We show them things and we get them to react to us, whether they're physical, digital, edible, or a service. We're always trying to learn from user interactions and what they care about and what they want. All those examples you just saw are examples from this group of people. This is my team back in San Francisco. We're a group of people who've been working in the food industry for over a decade, and we're a dedicated team in San Francisco. You might notice I've grown a little bit of a beard since yesterday. Beard jokes work. They work every time. It's like, I don't know why that is, but there's something about it. One of the things that's special and one of the most wonderful parts about IDEO is that we have interdisciplinary teams. So on this page, there are former lawyers, food scientists, packaging engineers, graphic designers. There's a whole suite of people. And when you get that group of people together, looking at a complex systemic challenge, every one of us is going to bring a different perspective. My background is in the packaged goods industry before I got my MBA at Berkeley Haas and then joined IDEO. And so that's the lens that I see things through when I'm working on a challenge with my teams. Like any good company out there, we always recommend you have a purpose that goes beyond why you make money. So what is it that your organization believes in and cares about? We put a stake in the ground a couple years ago because we said that if we were going to decide who to work with or what to work on, we'd have to be pretty clear about what it is we cared about and what mattered to us. And so we talked about using design to drive sustainable change in the food system, and then on the flip side, to enable better food choices for all people. It became, it created clarity for us, or a rallying cry around why we did the work that we would do. And it's really important because if any of you read often, we're in a pretty dire situation. I think every day there's a new headline that talks about kind of what's happening in the food system and how challenging things will be. I think this one is probably the scariest one. It talks about how we have 60 topsoils left, according to the UN, which is a very, very kind of scary thing that is kind of crazy. But I think as we think about how we chunk that down and attack these problems, we'll talk about that in a second. I'm confident and hopeful that design can play a role in changing our food system as a whole. And so today, I want to take you through kind of 3 big shifts. Within each one, a couple of case studies. Most of this today will be work that my team at IDEO has done, including and one other project that has really inspired me. And I'm going to spend the bulk of our time tonight sharing with you all a project that we completed here in the UAE a few months ago. So I think that'll be the most relevant for everyone who's living here right now. Sound good? Cool. Okay. First, we need to reimagine broken systems. So I want to take you all on a plane to Shanghai. We worked with this company in Shanghai, a very large food company, who had an ambitious goal to create a trusted food source in China. How many of you have been to China? A lot of you. How many of you have seen the challenges with finding quality food and all of the kinds of, all the time, everywhere, right? So a couple of the folks that we work with, they are thinking about how to create a trusted food source in China. Food is at the heart of Chinese culture, as it is at the heart of most of our cultures. Yet the food industry in China battles food safety issues, unregulated pesticides use, irresponsible production, corruption, and it left Chinese consumers unable to trust that what they were eating would be healthy for them or would not cause any kind of sickness. And so the team asked IDEO to help them build a long-term vision and strategy around restoring people's faith in their food, while also creating movement around conscious farming practices. And what we decided to do was help create a fast casual restaurant concept, later known as hunter-gatherer. We designed all of the elements and the retail experience around this compelling brand promise, which is to serve the people real food that is their right. And once the foundation of the brand vision was built, the team explored how it might come to life. And so these are some examples of kind of the visual language and other things like that. While we were doing this work, though, what we realized was going to be really critical was that the part of the system that was really broken was the farming part of the system. And so we actually worked with them to figure out that they actually needed to buy their own farms. That way they could actually guarantee that the supply of food that was coming into the stores was going to be healthy and safe for everyone. And so you can see kind of in some of these pictures on the bottom, we talk a little bit about kind of where the food is coming from and how it is how it's been sourced. So I want to actually take you to one of their farms and show you that real quick. And so this is one of their flagship stores. They now have 5 in Shanghai. So next time you go to Shanghai, you'll have to check this out. But they talk about where all the food is from. And they not only have groceries that you can buy, but they also serve you kind of pre-made, prepackaged food as well. And then they actually will cook for you on the spot. And it's just, this is an example of thinking about how it's not just a consumer-facing thing that talks about this is better for your food. It's actually looking at the whole system from front to end. So thinking about how do we change and think about broken systems. Next example I want to share with you all is some work that we did out of Europe with IKEA and a couple of schools. And they had come to us and said, this is back in 2015, they had said, we wanted to build a fully functional kitchen of the future. So if we were to project 10 years out, what would a kitchen of the future look like? How would it work? What would be the components of it? And we built them a fully functional thing for the Expo Milan in 2015 that people could actually walk through and touch and feel and experience. Another example of prototyping. But we didn't start like we normally would with designing a new fridge or a new stove. But we started to think about what would be the many things that would be out of IKEA's control, out of IKEA's control as a corporation. More people are moving into cities. Our living spaces are becoming smaller and smaller. That might not be true here in Dubai. Natural resources are becoming more scarce, food is getting more expensive, and waste is becoming an increasingly urgent issue. Near instant grocery delivery is altering how we shop and how we store food, and the technology is embedded in every part of our home. What would those outside factors do? How would the system impact the way a company brings something to life? So we thought about a couple of different concepts that are brought to life here. This is the modern pantry. And any of you who cook at home know that you go to the store and you buy something and it sits in the back of your fridge, and then weeks later you realize, oh my God, I left that thing in the back of my fridge, right? And so this was an idea, how could you use induction cooling to actually bring out important items so you can actually see them, so you're not wasting as much food. Storing them in transparent containers on open shelves rather than hiding them in the back of a fridge. This is an example on the right is something that we call the mindful sink. And so as you think about the terms gray and black water, water being reused throughout a system in the house, this was actually built to actually let you decide if you wanted to reuse the water for plants or other parts of the ecosystem in your own home. And then obviously this on the left is a much simpler way to help people recycle more and put things back for reuse. The last one I'm going to share is another video. It's called The Living Table. And I'll let this play for a minute, and then we'll talk about it.
The table brings inanimate objects to life using smart light. A camera observes what happens on the table, and relevant graphics are projected back onto the surface. This kitchen table is about more than just dining. It is your preparation surface, hob, workbench, and children's play area. Explore creative flavor combinations. Get suggestions on what to cook
All of your kitchen stories brought to life on a single surface. Really nice. What's really interesting about this example to me is that they took a 10-year out vision and said, let's put something out there. All of this stuff will not be possible by 2025. That's okay. But it's meant to provoke people and to help people understand what could or what might be. It also helps them put some stakes in the ground about where technology is going and where they can actually then build towards. So it's really special part about this is that they actually made this very public. Their thinking in doing so was that they might inspire their suppliers, the people that they work with, to help them make this vision become a reality. And so by taking a systemic approach to innovation, IKEA was able to lead the future-proof and plan kind of where they might go and then turn challenges into opportunities. And shift from individual to collective by putting it out to a larger group of people. The second topic I think is really important is I think we're seeing out in the world today that individual actors don't very rarely have the ability to change large-scale issues anymore, and that we need coalitions and groups and collectives working on things together, and that's actually going to be the way to make change happen. And so I'm going to take you through two examples of how we've kind of gone from individual to collective. Some of you may have heard this term, the circular economy, right? Today we live in a very linear economy. You buy a phone, the phone gets thrown away, most of everything in here is junked. It ends up in a landfill, right? In the future, we hope that we live in a more circular economy so that the resources we have aren't just wasted and thrown away, but they come back in. And so as we talk about the circular economy of food, something that we hosted last year with Collab. Collab is IDEO's platform for collaborative impact to prototype and test a new food system. So we hosted a 3-day sprint with 7 companies. 7 companies, you'll see who they are in a second, who are oftentimes considered biggest competitors with each other. But we thought there was a real power in getting a really diverse group of companies who sometimes compete with each other in the room together to say that we collectively believe there's more that we can do for the food system than we might be able to do alone. So another video for you. Ooh.
We're here to take a very audacious but also very intangible concept of circular economy. We're trying to take that to the next level and actually make it much more tangible and concrete.
It has been an extraordinary week. We have all of these extraordinary member companies that are here really looking at how we can be re-envisioning the food system and applying circular principles to a regenerative future.
Circularity is so closely linked with innovation, and it's innovation that's the path forward for us as we face really daunting challenges in every aspect of our economy.
The huge light bulb was the build something, build a prototype. It generates so much more positive feedback than just an idea which generally gets crushed or the next day.
Traditionally, talking is so much easier. It's easier to sit around the table, and we found ourselves doing that at several points. And so breaking out of that and actually starting to build was kind of a revelatory moment for all of us.
The experience has been really intense and really energizing, and I think really eye-opening, and it sounds a bit like a cliche maybe to say that, but I think that the fact that so many of us spend a lot of our time thinking through these systemic problems, but we do so in our own companies or in our own organizations, and I think that the beauty of this is that we're coming together with different companies, different participants, different skill sets to together co-create basically a solution. I think there are very few and special opportunities that you can have to do that.
And so that's what's really most exciting for me is to be able to work with, potential competitors in this space, and instead of competitors, it's peers. And that shift has really been kind of foundational for me.
So over the course of 3 days, the teams created ideas and prototypes that spanned circular food delivery to new systems for handling trash to circular food packaging and a more circular way. And I think what's important is it's not just that they created these things in 3 days, prototypes, ideas that can hint to the future, but that they did them together and not apart. But these prototypes, they were just the beginning. As we talk a lot about prototypes, they're something for people to react to make a very complex and often really abstract idea like circular economy of food feel real for people. And what's exciting is that some of the companies have actually taken these on, and they're actually building them out a little bit further through a shared IP platform we've developed. This is probably my favorite one. It's called Abundance. The idea is it's an online marketplace that connects people with affordable fresh food with retailers who have excess. And so you think about the end of the night, maybe it's suhoor time, maybe you're a little hungry, and then all of a sudden you just get an alert on your phone that 5 nearby restaurants have a bunch of food that would be thrown out, and they're selling it for 20 or 30% what it would have costed. That's super cool, as an example. Okay. Next one I want to share, something that really, really inspires me. Next Gen Cup Challenge. So I think we don't often think about, I hadn't really thought about until we actually launched this. When you go to Starbucks or McDonald's and you grab a cup of whatever you're drinking, how bad these really are for the environment. They're really awful for the environment. These fiber cups, it's because they typically have a plastic liner. That's how our beverages stay warm or they stay cold. And what ends up happening with them is when you throw them away, there's nothing recoverable inside of them because the process is too difficult to pull the two components apart. And so we were working with closed loop partners again, and we were thinking that if we were going to show and give the world a tangible symbol of a way that we could shift the food system and the waste that we have out there, this would be a perfect place to start. There's 250 billion of these are distributed globally. It's insane, the number of these that are out there in the world. And so we figured if we could figure out how to make a new fiber cup circular, it could create a new symbol for people to interact with and put a more sustainable future literally in everyone's hands. The Next Gen Cup Challenge aimed to push the boundaries of sustainable design, material, and chemical innovation to solve the prevalent global waste issue. And so Open IDEO is our online platform that basically brings challenges out into the world. And what I love about this one is that it was public and private, meaning if you were a private company who had a solution, you could submit privately and maintain your IP, or if you were a public person who was trying to do something interesting, you could submit an idea as well. And so instead of just having McDonald's or Starbucks or Yum Brands, the KFC, Taco Bell folks, thinking about this on their own and their own R&D, they opened up their lens in a huge way and invited people in to submit ideas. And we hosted events across 12 countries in the world. It was pretty incredible. We ended up getting over 480 entries, submissions to the challenge, 60% of which were public, and the other rest were private. And this was just an extremely interesting way to catalyze this. And there was $1 million prize associated with this across different phases as well, for mentorship and sponsorship and things like that. Right now, there are 7 companies moving forward, 7 of them who are moving into an accelerator program with IDEO and closed loop partners to bring some of them to life. There are a couple of them that I'm going to show you here really quickly. Some of them are like Recup, which is thinking about a new business model around cups, so you could take one with you and drop it off at convenient locations around. Another one is thinking about the coating, so just going after that simple coating. If we could just change the coating, that would be a huge deal. And then other ones are entirely new materials altogether that they've been working on for some time. But it's really exciting to think, again, if you open up, if we go from individual actors to a collective, what can we actually achieve together? Okay. Last topic I want to share with you all is about a more inclusive future. This next one, IDEO had nothing to do with this. No credit, we did nothing with this, I'll say that repeatedly. But I love this example because it's coming from my kind of backyard in Oakland, California, which is my adopted hometown. And I wanted to share the story because it shows me how powerful it can be when people that we don't normally hear from look at systems and design solutions and design them in inclusive ways. So Diaspora Co., the founder, Sana, is trying to dismantle the decades-old spice trade in India by cutting out the middlemen. And what I find so inspiring about her is that she has tried to create relationships directly with farmers in India, with the people who are supplying, and she buys their harvest and she pays them way more than they would have ever been paid. And she's cut out all these people, but everyone across her supply chain gets a living wage. And so people who wouldn't have been paid the way that they should have in the past, they're getting paid as well. And she also shares back parts of her profits. And I think that her company, they operate in a fundamentally different way, which is thinking about the question of who has power, who has equity and who's allowed to sit at the table. And they're basically trying to disrupt and decolonize an outdated commodity system. I think what's really important about this is that the reason why she was able to do this is because of who she is and what her point of view is, right? She doesn't often, when you see the world in a certain way forever, it's hard to look at how you might change it. But when people have a different point of view, they're able to look at things in a new and interesting way, and I find that really inspiring. Okay, and with that, I want to share my final example for tonight. This one's going to go a lot longer than the last couple, about some work we did at Palmwood. Some of you know what Palmwood is, some of you do not, so I'll give you a quick primer on Palmwood and why I think Palmwood is a really special example of an inclusive future. Palmwood is a creative organization and strategic design studio here in Emirates Towers, but the exciting thing about Palmwood is not where we are, but who we are. Palmwood is a joint collaboration between IDEO and the UAE government, and this is a really big idea. This is the first time that a national government has co-founded a design studio with a global design icon to bring design, human-centered design, design thinking into the government. And this is a huge show of faith on why design is important and has a role to play in big systemic challenges. Ultimately, our mission is based on a simple and powerful idea, and that's to build the creative capability of this country. What I find really exciting about this is our team. We bring together, so it's not just that we fly in a bunch of designers from other parts of the world to come solve problems for the UAE. No, our team is actually 50-50, right? So we have Emiratis on our team, and we have Westerners, and we have people from Europe, and we have people who kind of represent the full spectrum, bringing an inclusive team together to solve the problems that we want to take on. We also partner with policymakers to explore some of the biggest challenges that are being faced here, and we typically partner with various ministries in the UAE government. Our clients are actually ministers themselves, which we'll show you in a minute. This is our remit. How can designers, the public, policymakers work hand in hand to co-create solutions to social challenges? So again, being inclusive, it's not just top-down anymore, but the idea is that we bring the government literally in the tower with the people, and we bring them together, right? So about near the end of last year, I was out here with a team leading a project, and this was our challenge. We were working with the Ministries of Food Security and Education to bring the voice of Emirati youth to the table. And I'm going to give you an uncharacteristically deeper look inside this project, so you guys can get a feel, kind of close some loops on how design actually works, what it actually looks and feels like. And this is normally stuff we might share behind the scenes with our partners, but I thought this would be a good use of sharing some time with you all tonight. So I'm going to play a video in a second while it's playing. This will give you a feel for kind of what research for us felt like. What did it feel like when we were out working on this project? So we spent about 8 weeks on this project. We went to public schools. That was our design target, 6th to 8th grade public school Emirati youth. Across 5 Emirates, our team did 5 in-home visits with families and caretakers. We spoke to more than 10 teachers and principals, entrepreneurs, people who work in the food system, and in all had over interactions with over 700 students. We asked them about their ideas, their hopes, their dreams. We designed and developed with them. And it was a great reminder for us to see how sensory and excited the youth could be if we actually talked to them, we actually listened to them and gave them a voice, which was really special. We saw firsthand their creativity and their optimism. This is Her Excellency Miriam, who is our core client from the Ministry of Food Security. She is an absolutely wonderful and inspiring person. And then we also saw the frustrations that the youth have about the things they want to change and their desires for their own nation, for this nation. In our first round of research, this is Her Excellency Jamila as well from the Ministry of Education, who also joined us out in schools. So again, it wasn't just that my team went out into schools and talked to people and then we gave somebody a report. We actually brought the ministers in with us so they could actually feel firsthand and actually talk to the kids, which was really critical and really important. We started our project by trying to understand what the kids were excited by. So we had a sense early on that we might think about starting a movement, so we had to understand what was cool to the kids, what did they like. We asked them, if you could change your canteen, what might it feel like, to prompt the kind of feelings or things they were hoping to get out of the school system. And then where were they naturally interested? So if we were going to design food interventions or solutions to the kids, what would they tell us that they really cared about? In our second round, we actually iterated based on their comments, homing in on a visual style that would resonate most, something that they thought was cool, a food movement that they might want to be a part of, versus us telling them, right? The standard modus is we tell kids what to do versus actually listening to kids. It was really critical that we actually heard from them and had them fill out comments for us about what they liked or what they didn't like. We figured that whatever they liked, we weren't going to like. And if we liked what they like, we did it wrong, right? And so this is what they actually said to us. They said, I like this look. It's on trend. Don't make it look childish. That's not cool. Can we please have this in our schools? They were so much more sophisticated and daring in their taste than we imagined they would be. They had some edge to them, which was really fun. They had, they told us that we shouldn't assume what they would like because we were going to get it wrong. One of the things we like to do on design projects is after each interview, after each person we talk to, we as a team, we sit down and we design. If I was going to meet this person's need based on what they just talked to us about, what would be the thing that they would have? And so we also showed them a whole series of concepts and had the kids vote on what they wanted and what they wanted to see the UAE do next. And what they told us was, if you do this in our schools, please don't let the grown-ups do it, which was really special. When we started this project, we thought that we were going to have to spend our time only in schools. If we were going to change kids' habits, school's going to be the critical place to be. We realized really quickly that there was so much more influencing factors around the way kids ate that went way beyond school. It was what was happening in the home, what was happening with their friends on social media. All of these things had a major impact on kids. And so as we finished and kind of wrapped our project, we had 5 big opportunity areas. And I'll share these with you really quickly, just to share with you all. I think some of these might resonate for the Emiratis and maybe the non-Emiratis as well in the room, and things that might ring true to you all as people who live here in the UAE. And so we figured there's an opportunity to create space for hands-on culinary exploration at schools, to empower teachers and kids to do what's right for their kids. We found, and I'm not going to go through all of these, but I'll go through one kind of quickly. That kids need encouragement to try things, get messy, and fail. We heard so many things from parents saying, kids are not allowed in my kitchen. They're not allowed in my kitchen. They want to come in, I tell them to leave. So if you're a kid who had natural curiosity for cooking or for food, and your parents tell you can't be there, well, you're going to explore other things, right? So can we create a space for that outside of the home? Can we create a space for that back inside of schools to teach kids how to cook? We also recognize that there was a huge opportunity to support parents and caretakers and families and give them the tools to support positive behaviors at home, to guide them to help make better choices and model good behavior. Parents are busier than ever in the UAE, and they're less connected to their family's food decisions than they were before. One really inspiring story, and Mitch is laughing because she's heard this a few times, was, caretakers are kind of like where the buck stops. And oftentimes they're not empowered to make decisions, and they don't want to piss off the kids because they want the kids to be happy with them, so there's no drama in the house, whatever. And we were in this home, and we were asking this woman, tell us, what are people eating? How often do you get delivery? And they're like, oh, no delivery ever. We cook everything. Everything is made by us. And then literally while we were there, 24 Krispy Kreme donuts delivered at the place. And she was like, oh, that's not me. That's the daughter. The daughter does this for her friends. So the daughter one of the daughters was having a play date upstairs, and all of her friends came over, and then all they had was they ate donuts at night. And that's not on her. That's on the broader kind of construct of the family unit, right? Culinary cool factor. There's an opportunity to inject culinary presence into spaces and places where kids are already seeking entertainment, developing an inspiring path towards careers in the food space by celebrating role models in the culinary space. There are very few culinary role models in the UAE. It's unlike many other parts of the world where we glorify chefs, and chefs are a huge deal, and chefs are the new rock stars. That same vibe doesn't exist here in the UAE, and there's even there was an individual we met whose quote isn't up here, but she's a pastry chef at the Burj Al Arab, wonderful Emirati woman, and she was saying how it took over a year for Emar to figure out how to hire her because they had never hired a chef before that was an Emirati person. So it's like things like that are really important. I hate to say it, but it's true. Move on. There's an opportunity to bring the private sector and government together to tackle the biggest food challenges through policy, entrepreneurship, and new partnerships. So we obviously spent a ton of time with kids, but we got to think beyond and think about the system itself. And there are so many people doing so many interesting things in the food space here in the UAE. They're not connected to each other. There's policy problems. There's a lot of things that we could change to help them, whether that's giving teachers and principals more agency about what happens in their schools, or whether it's breaking down barriers for entrepreneurs like Faisal from Slices. And then finally, there is an opportunity to go big or go home the UAE way, engaging kids in food through new best-in-class, new-to-the-world experiences. Because kids don't know where their food comes from here. So we had these 5 opportunity areas. This is 6 weeks of research and design, and we're kind of rounding the corner and thinking, well, okay, how are we going to bring this all together? Some of these things are going to be individual, some of them are going to be collective. Some of them are going to shift hearts and minds. Some of them are going to shift environments and systems. They kind of live across the spectrum. But we wanted to wrap it all up in a movement. We wanted to build something that could encompass and hold all of these things together. So I'm going to take you through a little bit of storytelling, unveil the movement, and then we're going to close. Did you all see the quote up there earlier that said unconscious hot dog? Any of you read that? You saw that? This is probably my favorite story from the project. So we were talking to one of the ministers who was telling us a story about someone in their family who was hungry, a child in their family, and the child was eating, and they had a snack made for them, which was a hot dog. They gave it to them, and they're busy watching TV. Eat the hot dog. 5-10 minutes later, they're like, hey, what did you have as a snack? And the kid is like, I have no idea. I don't remember what I had as a snack. And what the minister said to us was like, this is the unconscious hot dog. This is the problem we're facing here in the UAE. Is people aren't even thinking about what they're eating. They're just eating, right? And so as we think about food, food is happiness. It creates happiness. I think here in the Emirates, Friday lunch is that epitome of happy place. It's our connection. It's what brings families together. It strengthens our bonds. It's how we kind of come together. It's a huge part of our identity. The nutty scent of cardamom in my family's salanet lahem, or the powerful little punch of cinnamon in your family's haris. These are the small details that distinguish each Emirati family. And then food is culture. At the same time, these details unite us together as a people. And unfortunately, not every day is Friday, though. The majority of us eat out every day of the week. Takeout and delivery are on the rise here in the UAE. And food is such an important part of our lives that we make over 200 food decisions a day. So it's no surprise that we all make food choices that give us pleasure in the moment, right? We eat with our emotions. We seek those quick and convenient comfort foods that are full of carbs and flavor hits. And today we're paying the price for that convenience. Sweeteners and artificial flavors are replacing nature's best ingredients. And it's changing the palates of a generation to expect that quick hit of flavor, but these fakes don't deliver the same experience, nor the longer lasting physical, mental, emotional benefits that we get from real, delicious, and nutritious food, because we are at our best when we eat our best. Real whole unprocessed foods like fish, rich in omegas, chicken, beef, chickpeas have vitamin B that helps you build serotonin. We've lost our appreciation for food as a culture. We in the UAE don't know where our food comes from. We're increasingly removed from how our food is prepared, and we don't feel guilty when food is thrown away or how it's disposed. And the reality is that this nation is at risk. There is a growing obesity epidemic. There is diabetes, heart disease, and it's a real problem. What we learned when we were doing this project was that almost 40% of kids in government schools are overweight today, and almost 20% of them are at obese levels. That's really bad, and they're only getting worse. And I think what's the flip of all this is that this is an opportunity for the UAE to lead with a different approach. We often talk about for kids, but this time, what if we flipped it and we did something by kids? Kids are going to be the engineers and pioneers of our future. What if we actually incorporated them and what they wanted to do in deciding where we should go? They genuinely want to see positive change. So what if we created a hands-on, kid-led movement to design a food-rich future for the UAE? And that took us back to be thinking a little bit about this idea of where UAE's food used to come from. It was a little bit from the sea and a little bit from the mountains and a little bit from the oasis and a little bit from the desert. And our cuisine, the cuisine here in the UAE, was born of creativity and resourcefulness. It was using desert plants and spices that made their way on the maritime trade, where Arabians became the most lucrative of traders. Spices that were used to give depth and dimension to our food. Cinnamon to add sweetness without sugar, turmeric to add immunity, a pinch of coriander, a touch of cloves, a dash of turmeric, maybe a little bit cinnamon. The thing about this is what we realized in this project is that every Emirati family has their own secret recipe for the best blend of spices. And just like those recipes, we've cooked up a movement that will bring out the best of what the UAE has to offer. So the name of the movement is Bazaar, which is the name of the Emirati spice mix, for those of you that don't speak Arabic. And this is actually Bazaar in Arabic, which is really lovely. Play with your food, fuel your future. Through a fun, competitive, and creative teamwork in schools, at home, and out in the world, Bazaar will challenge kids and families to get curious about food. A hands-on, kid-led movement to design a food-rich future for the UAE. Our beliefs are that food can make us happier than it does today. It can make us more prosperous than it does today. And that food can actually be an avenue to build future leaders. And when we finished the project, we led with these kind of 5 different values that we hoped that kids would finally have an opportunity to create fearlessly, get messy, make new rules, team up, and question everything. And this was a really, really awesome project. One of our fun concepts was where we photoshopped Her Excellency into this photo. We gave her her own cooking show. That's not come out yet, but we're hoping sometime soon it'll be on Dubai TV. But what has happened since we finished the project is that there have already been changes made to school food. Certain things have been taken out, and they've actually started doing kids cooking classes as well, so giving kids an opportunity to actually get hands-on. But it's just at the beginning, and there's a lot more to be done. Okay, so when you think about the food system and everything you eat, I hope tonight I've inspired you to think about the ways that you can play a part in changing our food system by thinking about broken systems, moving from yourself to groups, and thinking about building a more inclusive future. Thank you so much.